I have said so before, but I will repeat it here. If someone sends me a comic and I am critical of it, it is not me being ungrateful. This is one of those comics that my subscriber, Darth Knight, got me, and it is a real mess. But I am very thankful that he got me this. I wanted it, and I half expected it to not be great. Any of my criticisms are directed at the comic, not the person who got me this issue. They are not responsible for any of this. They did a nice gesture, and I appreciate that. But I am going to objectively look at this issue as if it was any other issue. I'm one of my nosebleeds again. This is Tiny Titans 114. This is an issue in between the team breaking up and the team getting an all new lineup. The gimmick here is that we are seeing 24 hours, we are seeing a full day when the Tiny Titans aren't really together anymore and all their members have gone off in separate directions to do whatever. We start with an important subplot with Shrek Boy. He has been beaten up and then taken captive by someone who we cannot see here. I don't know what to complain about first. The writing or the art. The writing, I think, that is the first problem. This jumps between departing members of the Tiny Titans, and it does so very badly. We usually spend a single page with one, and then it jumps to another, and these cuts are sudden, and the scenes don't feel like they naturally end. As a result, half the scenes end up feeling pointless because nothing is accomplished or properly established in them. We have one page with one character, cut to another for one page, and so on. This Shrek Boy subplot is the only real ongoing thing, and we have a bad guy called Deathwing who comes from the Team Titans. Remember them? The Team Titans. Awful fucking name. I think Deathwing was one of their bad guys. The Team Titans. Initially, a huge problem is that this bad guy looks far too much like Dick Grayskull, and the art is so off in places that you could believe this was the artist's attempt at drawing Dick Grayskull. I think Deathwing is a Dracula. I know nothing about the guy, but there is one line that reads like he is a Dracula. Speaking of Draculas, here is Bill Clinton making a celebrity guest appearance. How cool is that? Bill Clinton. How on earth did they get him? This is all setting up a new revamp where you're getting with Red Arrow, who is virtually unrecognisable here, leading the Tiny Titans, and them being presidentially approved. Deathwing is working with goth girl who I think left all her clothes at home that day. And it is some rapey stuff with her wanting to impregnate Shrek Boy with evil demon babies. This isn't sexy. I want that said. I famously find a lot of female on male rape sexy, but this is not. Example here of the bad structure is we cut away to Nightbird, Dick Greyskull. He is jumping through the skylight of a chop shop. And at first, the way it is presented, I thought he was jumping into this scene. I thought he was showing up to save Shrek Boy. But no, unrelated scene. Him fighting random Udrats. And then we cut to space, where we are introduced maybe to Mine Ion, a new character from space who looks too much like Shrek Boy. And before you really see much of him, we cut to Nightbird again, and this is after his last scene. The art is not good, and I want to say that confidently. This issue has 3 inkers, so maybe that is the cause, but I would be hard pressed to point to a single panel in here that looks good. The artist of this actually did some issues of No Man before this, and he was nowhere near as bad on them. Many, many years later, I remember he did an unflattering Michael Bryan Benson comic where Spider-Girl dressed like a prosy for no reason besides reader titillation. This Tiny Titans issue, the art looks amateur. The artist did better art when he was an amateur on No Man. Another thing is, this is actually a terrible page to raise this point because it is the only one where it isn't the case. Very, very bad establishing going on. We start scenes without really establishing where it is or who is there. Again, these 2 pages, it isn't a huge problem. But most of the others, you have problems like thinking Nightbird is jumping into another scene because it hadn't set up where it was set at all before getting to the action. The scenes with Mine Ion, and it is the same with all the ones that have more than one showing, they feel like scenes that were written complete and then broken apart afterwards. And maybe that is why the cutting away is bad, because these scenes were written to be in sequence. We get 3 pages of Mine Ion, and they read like they were 3 pages that were meant to be one after the other. Red Guardian over here. And yeah, we are getting rid of a team that had limited appeal. Tiny Titans began with a roster of characters that were fan favourites, or would become fan favourites. And then, by the time Jorge Perez left, most of those characters started moving on to other things. They would get their own series, or they would join another team. And so we got characters like Red Guardian, who were supposed to fill the void. I've got nothing against Red Guardian or any of these characters really, but it is an impossible task to live up to. And when your team ends up composed of mostly these Red Guardians, I don't know who Tiny Titans was really aimed at anymore. Look at Baby Wildebeest though. Isn't he a big cute boy? Only a really despicable piece of work would violently decapitate this character at the hands of Superboy Prime. Very bad art. This is a far better page to chastise the art. The faces look terrible. The angle of the panel top right is hideously wrong. I think it's a bit off in that middle image too. So Red Arrow, he is taking charge of the Tiny Titans, but there isn't a Tiny Titans anymore. They have nearly all left to do their own thing. He tries to call in the Flask, Willie West, but his message is instead heard by the Bart Simpson's version of the Flask. And this is a good setup, but it is also just as broken as any other part of the issue. Bart Simpson's has super speed. There is no reason that he wouldn't show up immediately after getting this call. But he doesn't. He is not in the issue anymore. And Red Arrow is at the meeting place, he said in the message, for hours waiting for teammates to show up. Where is Bart? It is like the one character you cannot use the excuse of, oh, I couldn't get there in time. Anyway, this is our big, badly drawn scene where Dick Grayskull leaves the Tiny Titans. Oh, it's just like when Gideon left Criminal Minds. The Red Guardian family, they aren't staying around. And even though they are written out here, they still manage to appear alongside the team when they gan on a mission directly after this issue. Shrek Boy is the only one who is staying with the team, and the writing is off with Red Arrow barely noticing that Shrek Boy looks like he has been savagely raped by an evil demon woman. So yeah, directly after this issue, the team gan off to appear in Pratt's Son series. And to be honest, it makes even less sense reading this issue setting that appearance up. Half the characters we saw leave and announcing they are done with the Tiny Titans, show up with the team in Pratt's Son anyway. Right at the end here, Epsilon shows up. I call him Epsilon because in the early 2000s there was a run on Tiny Titans that introduces a character called Epsilon, and that character was supposed to be this guy, but then an editor who hated the Tiny Titans with a passion hijacked the series and wanted to replace the entire cast with super-powered alien babies. Epsilon teleports Red Arrow and Shrek Boy to Atlanta to meet Pratt's Son. I'll tell you what, It is a very special thing when you get an issue to provide context for another comic, and it manages to make that other comic even more confusing. I suppose it is bad coordination and editorial, but even without the bad lining up with Pratt's Son issue 5, this has lousy art and an epically bad script layout. I didn't recommend this. That one page with Bart Simpson's is the only part where I went, oh, this actually might mean something going forward. I guess the Shrek Boy stuff will matter too. Same with Mine Ion. But those were not good scenes. And I've got to say, this is a disastrous 7 thumbs up.